In view of the respected chairman, sir, management faculty of Eastern Engineering College, principal, sir, vice principal, heads of the E&A department, Dr. S. Navarajan, heads of all the department, staff and student, I welcome today's speaker of the webinar session, respected Madam Dr. N. Papa, Professor and Head of the Instrumentation Engineer, Madras Institute of Technology, Anna University, Chennai. And Dr. Papa Madam secured school first in 10th and 12th standard. She is a gold medalist in UG and PG. She has done a research work in non-linear controller of heat exchanger. She has got nearly 28 years of teaching experience in various institutions like Annamalai University, Crescent Engineering College, and MIT Anna University. She has got travel grants from DST, AICT, TNS, SCST, AUCIC. She has got Fulbright Fellow Award from USIEF and CILUSA in the year 2019. She has published totally 27 papers in international journals. She has guided 9 PhD scholars and currently guiding 3 research scholars and MS scholars. She has participated many international level conferences in abroad and present papers in various international conferences in abroad. She has completed a sponsored project research in various organizations. I welcome you, madam. I welcome the participants also. I now hand over the session to Dr. Papa, madam, to present deep planning for modeling and controlling of bioprocess. Thank you, madam. Thank you for the participants.
The topic which we have carried out is on using deep neural network for modeling and control of bioprocess. I think this deep neural network is going to be the state of art today. And this deep neural network has been widely used for image kind of applications. People have explored using deep neural network. The attempt what we have made is like trying to use deep neural network for modeling and control of bioprocess. And with respect to modeling and control of systems or processes, this deep neural network has not been explored much. There are some specific reasons for that. Even though in my talk today, my focus is on bioprocess, but whatever I am discussing can be extended to any kind of process or any kind of system. Now, before we go into deep neural network, so let us have a brief introduction because we have a mixed group of audience. I thought that let me start with the basics of neural network. Let us talk about shallow network and let's see what are the limitations of shallow network. What is the need to go for a deep neural network for modeling and control? And with respect to neural network, like we may be like thinking about asking a question, what kind of task a neural network can do? And many of us have come across a lot of interesting applications of neural networks, like autonomous cars, the cars which can be driven automatically on the roads. And we also know like there are shocking CGI images that can be generated using computers, for which very popularly neural networks are used. And neural network can do machine translation, fraud detection, reading our minds. So that means neural network can do a lot of complex applications. So what is the proper way of asking the question? Instead of asking the question, what kind of task a neural network can do, the right way of asking the question is, what task cannot a neural network do? So that means neural network has a capability to do varieties of even complex tasks. So what is basically the job that is done by a neural network? So neural network, many of us know that basically it is a tool which can be used for data-driven kind of applications. So that means we come across plenty of data, which could be the real-time data or it could be a recorded data. So the job of the neural network is we wanted to spot out some interesting patterns from the data that is available. So which can be like a real data which is coming from any system, or it could be a recorded data. So the specific tasks that can be performed by neural network are broadly classified into classification kind of task, clustering kind of task, and prediction kind of a task. So the difference between classification and clustering is that Here we wanted to classify the data based on whether we know the output classes or predefined classes or output classes are not known. So if the label or output is known, classifying the data and putting them into the known class is called as classification. And when the output class is not known, classifying the input and then clustering them is basically called as clustering. Then the last class is prediction. So in prediction, based on what has happened in the past, we wanted to guess the future. So that is going to be the prediction. So prediction is the application which we wanted to discuss now. So where we are going to use a neural network for predicting or estimating the future outputs of system or processes. And so when we talk about shallow neural network, so shallow neural, we know that this artificial neural network is an attempt to mimic the human brain or biological neural network. So we know that the biological neural network is a massive collection of biological neurons. So let's see what is the function performed by artificial neuron. This is only a small introduction because I want everybody to understand what I'm trying to convey. So that's the reason I'm covering little basics also. So when we talk about the biological neuron, so what is happening in a biological neuron? So we know that in a human brain, there is tremendous processing that is happening in the human brain. So that means there is plenty of input which is entering into the human brain. Computation is getting performed in the human brain with the help of biological neural network, which is a collection of biological neuron. So let us see what is the function that is happening in a small biological neuron. So in a biological neuron, the input signals which are coming from the axons of neighboring biological neuron undergo a modification in the synaptic gap, and those signals are picked up by the dendrites. And this modified input is accumulated in the nucleus or cell body. And then it will undergo a threshold value. We will compare it with the threshold. Whenever the accumulated value is greater than the threshold, the biological neuron is going to fire, or it will generate electrical pulses and output. So this is what is happening in a biological neuron. So that means we need to modify the input signal, need to be modified. Modified signal need to be accumulated. It has to be checked with the threshold value. In the case of a biological neuron, when it exceeds the threshold, we wanted to fire the neuron. So this is what is happening. Now we wanted to mimic this with the help of artificial elements. So let's see how it is happening in the case of an artificial neuron. So the input signals in this diagram, what has been represented as x1 to xm, are the inputs which undergo a modification, which is represented in the form of weights here. This modified inputs are accumulated in the summation block, which we call it as a net output, that undergoes an activation function to give us a final output. So this is how we are trying to mimic the biological neuron with the help of an artificial neuron. And our brain consists of, we should know the complexity or the massive parallelism that is present in our human brain. So that means we have got around 86 billion neurons present in the human brain, and there are more than 100 trillion synapses or connections which are present. And this biological neuron is going to fire at a rate of roughly 200 times a second as an average. This is the rate at which the biological neuron fires. So this is a small recap of what a biological neuron and what an artificial neuron is. And we come across a lot of architectures, which we call it as artificial neural network architecture, where we may come across single layers, multi-layers, or we may come across recurrent type of neural network. And number of layers in the case of a feed-forward neural network is decided based on how many sets of weight vectors we come across. If there is only one set of weight vector, we call it as a single layer. If there are two sets of weight vectors, we call them as two layer, etc. So that means it can be extended up to multi-layer. So this is a feed-forward kind of architecture. And you may also come across recurrent kind of architecture where there will be some kind of a local feedback or there could be global feedback. Just to give an idea about what are the different neural network architectures so far we have come across in the case of a shallow neural network. And again, so this is with respect to the architecture, how the artificial neurons are interconnected. So that is basically nothing but the architecture. Then coming to the learning algorithm. So here, as we have seen, a neural network basically does a kind of a mapping function. So we wanted to map an input with a corresponding associated output. So if the output is known to us, That kind, okay. So basically, when you wanted to map the input with the corresponding output, and to get a desired output, you need to have appropriate weighting functions. So the parameters of neural networks are nothing but the weights and the activation function, or the parameters. And the way in which the weights are going to be updated in a neural network is called as training of the neural network, or learning phase of a neural network. So that means the weights can be updated either in offline mode, or it can be updated in an online mode. The focus of our work is on using online mode of updating the weights. And again, like when you wanted to do the mapping, to get a desired output, it depends on only the weight vectors. So that means for the same input. So as far as the architecture is concerned, depending on the applications, you will be choosing only the number of neurons in each layer and number of layers you will be varying. And depending on application, the weights are only going to be different. You can hear me? Yeah. Maybe the doubts, clarifications we will reserve towards the end, because already we are delayed with the webinar. So I request all the participants to reserve the doubts towards the end. Okay.
It's audible, ma'am.
It's audible.
1 minute, ma'am.
Yeah.
And someone is sharing the screen.
No, sir.
Ramya
Only
Sri?
ma'am. Ramya Bade.
Ramya Sri?
Is there any issue, or shall I continue?
1 second, ma'am. Participants, is the
ma'am.
screen visible now? Can anyone assure in the chat box? Kindly post your questions too in the chat box itself.
Now it's visible.
It's visible, ma'am.
It's visible. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Thank you.
Yeah, shall I continue?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. Please.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So this is like basically it does a mapping function. Okay. Again, like so that means you need to update the weights of the neural network. So weights are basically called as learning. Okay. So that means weights are updated using different learning algorithms. So we come across varieties of learning algorithm, and broadly it can be classified into the 3 different types. That means we come across supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. And this supervised learning, many of you might have come across all these learning methods. I'm giving a small recap for everyone to understand my remaining part of my presentation. And the supervised learning, as I said, if you know the input pattern, inputs as well as the corresponding label or target output is also known, that kind of a learning is called as a supervised learning. So that means by updating the weights of the neural network, for the input, I wanted to get a desired output from the neural network. So what we wanted to do, we will compare the actual output which is coming out of the neural network with the desired output. And this error, you wanted to minimize it. So that means this error information will be back propagated for updating the weights of the neural network. So the popular supervised learning algorithm is a back propagation algorithm. So in a back propagation algorithm, there will be like 3 phases. Like most popularly used architecture for back propagation is a feed forward architecture. So that means there will be a forward phase. You will apply the input. Initially, you will have random values of weights. You will compute the actual output of the network. That you will compare with the target output. So that means we will have a learning table available with us, where the input pattern and target patterns will be given to us. And then you will compare the target output with the actual output. And this error information will be back propagated for updating the weights of the different layers. So till you get an actual output same as the target output, you will keep updating the values of weights, or the learning will happen. So this is basically called as a supervised learning. It's basically equivalent to a teacher teaching the child. And coming to the unsupervised learning method, whenever the label or target output is not available to us, we wanted to group the similar input patterns into specific classes, okay, unknown classes. Then it is called as an unsupervised learning. So clustering is a popular application which comes under the unsupervised learning method. And the third learning is very popular learning method picking up today is the reinforcement learning. And in this reinforcement learning here, we wanted to basically interact with the environment. So that means actions will be taken by the neural network that will be applied to the real environment. Okay, and the action taken. So that means a reinforcement signal will be generated. This reinforcement signal is a kind of reward or punishment. If the action taken by the neural network is in the right direction, a reward will be given. If the action taken by the neural network is in the wrong direction, we don't want to repeat that action in the future, so you wanted to punish that particular action. So a typical example for reinforcement learning is like when you wanted to guide a robot in an untrained environment. So that means robot will not know where it come across the obstacles. Okay, so that means action will be taken by the robot, and when it makes the action, when you make a move in the right direction, you wanted to encourage that in the future. But when it hits an obstacle, you don't want to repeat that in future, so you wanted to punish that particular action. So that is basically called as reinforcement learning. So that means the neural network will, the actions taken by the neural network will be applied to the real environment. Based on the response we get from the real environment, either we wanted to encourage that action or we don't want to encourage that action. So these are the three popular learning algorithms we will come across for the case of artificial neural networks. Now in the shallow network, which is used for modeling and control, the very popular network, as I said, is a multi-layer feed-forward kind of a neural network. So I want to just make a comparison. So my focus is only on modeling and control. I am not exploring on image-based applications where different set of deep neural networks are used. In the case of feed-forward kind of a neural networks, which are used for modeling and control of applications, we typically use the feed-forward architecture. And the popular algorithm that is used is a backpropagation algorithm. So as I said, like you will apply the input, there will be a feed forward phase where you wanted to get the output of the neural network. You wanted to compare it with the target, and this error you wanted to backpropagate, and then you wanted to update the weight. That means there will be a backpropagation, and then weights will get updated. So these are the three phases we come across in the backpropagation architecture. And a quick recap of this algorithm, backpropagation algorithm. And to overcome the challenge we have in using this backpropagation algorithm for deep kind of a network, we went for the kind of a proposed research work. Now, this basic backpropagation algorithm, like these are some of the mathematical expressions which most of you might have come across. Just a quick recap. So these are basically the output of the neural network. So the final output of a neural network is f of y in j. Y in j is a net output which undergoes an activation function to give us a final output. And this net output is nothing but weighted sum of inputs. So the input to the input layer is multiplied by the set of weights that undergoes an activation function to give us the output of the hidden layer neuron. So that output again will be multiplied by one more set of weights, then that will undergo an activation function to give us the output of the next layer. But in backpropagation algorithm, the main objective is minimization of error. So we wanted to minimize the difference between the target output and the actual output which is coming out of the network. And this is the objective function. Okay, so we wanted to minimize the square of error, sum of square of error, we wanted to minimize it. And when you wanted to minimize this, we wanted to update the weights in such a way, in such a direction that the error gradient will get minimized. So that means we will move in the direction opposite to that of the gradient in order to update the weight, so that you will move in the direction towards minimization of error. And so the weights are going to be updated in the opposite direction to that of error gradient. So I wanted to find out how much will be the change in error when I update these weights. And similarly, I wanted to find out how much will be the change in error when I update the first set of weight values. Then there is a small derivation here. So basically what we see here is I need an error gradient. So error, this is the error at the output layer. So I wanted to find out how much is the error gradient with respect to hidden layer weights, how much is the error gradient with respect to input layer weights.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, your PPT is not visible, ma'am.
My PPT is not visible.
Ma'am, kindly pin the Papa Madam's presentation, ma'am. It's visible.
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah, maybe you can put it in the chat. I think the organizers can clarify.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are posting in the chat too.
Maybe you
Participants.
can check in your end. Yeah, you can check in your end.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's visible, ma'am. You please
Yeah.
continue, ma'am.
Okay. So that means here I don't want to go through the detailed derivation, but important fact what I wanted to highlight is that means error gradient is back propagated. Okay. So we wanted to find out how much will be the change in error when I change the output layer weights, how much will be the change in error when I change the input layer weights. So that means we wanted to back propagate the error information. And finally, let's see how this error gradient is changing with respect to hidden layer weight and how the error gradient is changing with respect to input layer weights. The important observation what you have to make here is that this error gradient is a function of the derivative of the activation function. So we come across f dash here. So that means I need the derivative of the activation function. So the important fact is that when we use the activation function, the popular activation functions like log sigmoidal, tan sigmoidal kind of activation function, where the output is in the range of 0 to 1, and whenever the net input is large, you get either 1 as an output, or when the net input is too small, you will get 0 as an output. So that means the activation function output is going to saturate when there is a large value of net input, or when there is a too small value of net input, the output is going to saturate. So when the output saturates, the corresponding derivative f dash will become 0. So that means that this error gradient will become too small. The error gradient will become too small whenever the net value is too small, or whenever the net value is too large. Okay. So that means as we back propagate through the number of layers, the error gradient will keep diminishing. So that is a very important fact. So that fact is called as a vanishing gradient problem. So we wanted to address this vanishing gradient problem. So that means so here you can see, okay, here you can see the corresponding derivative of the activation function. So this is a popular sigmoidal activation function. Whatever you see in blue color is a sigmoidal activation function. The corresponding derivative is like this. So that means when the net input is small, my derivative is 0. When the net input is large, my derivative is 0. My derivative is non-zero only for a finite range of net input. Okay. So whenever I go for a large number of layers, okay.
Madam, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, PPT is not visible, madam. Ma, now listen to me. PPT
Ma'am,
visible.
it's visible, ma'am, actually. I have posted in the chat box also. We have to pin out ma'am's name with the presentation, ma'am. I have posted in the chat too.
அது பசங்களும் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்காங்க PPT present ஆகல அப்படின்னுட்டு.
இல்ல ma'am. Participants listல you can see two names. One is with the ma'am name, another ma'am's name within bracket presentation.
வரமாட்டேங்குதுமா. அந்த PPT வந்து வர மாட்டேங்குது.
Ma'am, we are not able to
வருது.
view the PPT.
PPT
Papa.mit presentation. There is a name in the participants list like this. We have to pin out that, ma'am.
Presentation வர மாட்டேங்குது. எனக்கு ஒரு நிமிஷம்.
Ma'am, no such
presentation
available.
அவங்க பேசுறது மட்டும் வருதுமா. Presentation
It's visible,
Ma'am, no such option is available.
Yeah, my
Ma'am,
screen says no. My screen says that I am sharing my window.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
It's
I am
visible.
able to see. I am able to see
Many
my
of the
window. Yeah.
yes, ma'am. Many of the participants have also said that it is visible only. Only few are saying it's not visible, ma'am.
சரி பசங்களும் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்காங்க. சரி ஓகே.
இல்ல ma'am. It's visible, ma'am.
சரி சரி.
Ma'am, it is not visible.
Ma'am, not visible, ma'am.
Participants, just a moment. Kindly, in participants list, you can see two names. One is papa.mit. The other one with the same map's name, papa.mit within bracket presentation. If you kindly pin out that, then only the presentation will be visible to all.
Ma'am, we can able to see only one option like that.
Then I will present my screen in which ma'am's presentation is there. Kindly acknowledge me whether it is visible.
லேப்டாப்ல வருது, மொபைல்ல வரல நிக்கல. இப்ப வருது, உங்க பிரசன்டேஷன் வருது.
That is my presentation, ma'am.
வருது. லேப்டாப்ல வருது, மொபைல்ல வரல நினைக்கிறேன். மேடமோட பிரசன்டேஷன் வந்து.
Participants, can any others acknowledge in the chat?
Hello, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
Yeah, visible, ma'am.
Visible, ma'am. Now it is visible.
But that is my screen, ma'am. Because if I present my screen, there will be a lot of disturbances by muting others, that and all. That's why we are asking to see ma'am's presentation.
But we are not able to see that option, ma'am.
இப்ப வருது.
One second, ma'am. Ma'am, Papa, ma'am.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, ma'am. Could you please present it again, ma'am, to sort out this issue? Because many are saying that it is not visible from their side. Can you please do it again, ma'am?
No, I think I am covering only the basics. There is a lot more to cover. We are already, like 45 minutes have gone.
Yes,
I'm just
yes.
doing the recap of only the basics. I think it should not be a problem. I have not
Yeah,
got
yeah,
to my
okay.
actual topic. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Sir,
Nagesh
yes,
ma'am, it's
Surendra, sir.
okay. Nagesh ma'am, it's okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah, okay, sir,
you
okay.
present.
Yeah, okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, because I'm just a recap. I'm still in the recap of what is a shallow neural network. I have not gone too deep at all.
Yes, yes, ma'am. I'm
Yeah.
presenting your screen,
Okay,
ma'am.
madam.
I will.
Okay, madam. You continue from your presentation, madam. Okay.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So we were discussing on this. Okay. So that means that this gradient. Okay. So that means the derivative of the activation function is finite only for a small range of net input. And beyond that, it gets saturated. Okay. So that means when you have more number of layers, the gradient is going to vanish. And this problem is called as a vanishing gradient problem. So when you come across a shallow network which has got, so a shallow network is a network which has got in the order of less than 3 layers. So when you come across more number of layers, 3 or above, people call that as deep neural network. So when we have more number of layers, the derivative of the activation function slowly it degrades, or it vanishes, and the weights, before they get updated to the true value of expected weights, they get saturated because there will be no further weight update. Because in the earlier expression here we see that when f dash of y and k becomes 0, this delta k will become 0. When delta k becomes 0, there will be no change in y. Similarly, this delta j is also a function of f dash. When f dash becomes 0, delta j will become 0. When delta j becomes 0, delta wij will become 0. So that means weights are not going to be converged to the true value of weight unless we have this derivative of activation function. So when we go for more number of layers, this vanishing gradient problem is predominant. Okay, so that means we cannot think of using back propagation kind of neural network for when we come across more number of layers. That is the first important factor. And because before it converges the true value, it is going to get saturated. And the second important problem is that when you come across more number of layers, we know that this backpropagation is an iterative learning algorithm. So for the convergence of backpropagation algorithm, it is going to take significant amount of time as the complexity of the network increases. Okay. And so when we come across deep kind of a neural network, when we try to use this backpropagation algorithm, the computation time also will be more, because when you come across more number of layers, try to backpropagate error and then correct it, the total computation time is going to be large. So that means it's going to be computationally intensive. We come across vanishing gradient problem. And because of these reasons, directly like backpropagation algorithm cannot be extended for deep neural network when we wanted to use it for modeling and control kind of application, which mostly comes under the prediction or mostly comes under the supervised kind of learning. And to overcome the problem with this backpropagation algorithm, with respect to deep neural network, people also have attempted alternate activation functions, which they call it as a ReLU kind of activation function, which is a rectified linear unit kind of an activation function. But there are a lot of research work which also has proved that even using ReLU kind of an activation function, still you have this vanishing gradient problem. And this deep neural network has been like explored plenty for image kind of application, but where they don't use this backpropagation algorithm, that basically comes under the clustering kind of applications or classification kind of application. So we made an attempt to modify, okay, so that we can use it for modeling and control kind of application. And this artificial neural network is only a tool which can be used in plenty of applications. Okay, so it's a tool. So any domain people will be interested in using the neural network as a tool for any of the applications like classification, clustering, or prediction kind of application. So few areas in which the neural networks are popularly used has been listed out here. And a lot of mechanical applications people use this artificial neural network for modeling and control. Okay. Now let me go to this, my topic. Okay. And so in this, I have considered a bioprocess. And this bioprocess, I will try to explain in layman language, because we also have people with the computer science, with the EEE, EC, and all the different backgrounds. So let me explain the system to you using a layman language. Okay? And this bioprocess is basically equivalent to a vessel in which a cooking is happening. So this is basically equivalent to some kind of a cooker kind of an arrangement where cooking is happening. the recipe which we follow for cooking, and similarly we have got a recipe here also for the bioproduct. So these bioreactors are going to be used for manufacturing varieties of bioproducts. And this bioprocess basically deals with living organisms. So the important fact here is that here we handle living organisms. So we need to take care of the growth of these living organisms. So you will come across a lot of microorganisms, plant cells, animal cells, algae, fungi. So we come across living organisms. And these living organisms need to be properly grown. So that means there is a microbial activity which is happening inside the bioreactor. And this microbial activity is highly complex. It has got a highly complex dynamics. And the growth of these microorganisms also depends on the ambient conditions. So that means we need to maintain the pH level, we need to maintain the temperature, we need to maintain air. So that means like a living organism, some of the microorganisms need air for breathing. So we come across aerobic and non-aerobic kind of bioreactions. So that means they need air, or some of them will be expelling air. So we need to maintain the ambient conditions also. So this has got a lot of sensors, like for maintaining the temperature is going to be sensed using a temperature sensor, and then that is going to be maintained, okay, by using some kind of a chiller and heating kind of arrangement. And we wanted to maintain the pH inside the bioreactor, which is going to be maintained by adding either acid or base. So that means, again, air we wanted, so right amount of air we wanted to supply. So that means there is a separate arrangement, okay, which is going to supply air inside the bioreactor. And we want uniformity. It need to be a homogeneous mixing. So we wanted to have some kind of a agitator kind of arrangement. Because we are handling living organisms, these agitators will be rotating at a very small speed. They will be rotating it. And for the growth of these living organisms, you need to supply the nutrients also. So that means these bioprocesses are very popularly used for producing varieties of bioproducts, which we come across in pharmaceutical, food kind of applications, fuel, and biochemicals. So because of which this process is becoming like very interesting. And like the statistic, why it is so important, why we have taken this bioprocess. The global market demand for many of the bioproducts are drastically increasing over the last few years because of the high demand in human health, food and cosmetic kind of applications. And what is challenging in modeling and control of bioprocess? The microbial activity, what is happening inside the bioreactor, the metabolic reactions, what are happening, they are very difficult to model. And again, if you see, the ambient conditions also play an important role in the growth of these microorganisms. And some of the important parameters, we are not able to directly measure those parameters. So that means the complete information about all the associated variables which are changing inside the bioreactor is also not available with us. So we wanted, and a lot of uncertainty is associated with this bioprocesses. So we come across a bioprocess which are highly complex. There are a lot of uncertainty associated, and some of the important parameters you may not be able to directly measure them. So we need to go for some kind of an offline measurement, or we need to go for some kind of a soft sensor development. So these are the challenges or hurdles which we come across in most of the bioprocesses. And to address to these challenges, we have come across a deep neural network based modeling and control scheme. Again, like as we have seen, like this biofuels. So that is, again, there is green advantage of using this biomass rather than using the fossil energy. And many product is that, so these bioproducts are renewable biomasses, okay, when compared with, and again the gas emissions, greenhouse gas emissions will be drastically reduced. And with respect to this bioproduct, we have considered one specific bioproduct production process, which is called as a lutein production process. And this lutein is a very important bioproduct which plays an important role in human health issues, such as for cataract, for diabetic, heart problem, fatigue, stress, then obesity, stroke. For all that, very popularly the lutein is used. So we have used that lutein production process. Okay. Now coming to this dynamics of this process. So we have referred to the base papers in which the lutein production process has been discussed. And these dynamics, basically the people have arrived at this particular dynamics, the set of the governing equations and the parameters associated with the governing equations by conducting a lot of experiments on the lutein production process. So that means most of the bioprocesses are handled either using the offline mode or basically like open loop mode or in semi-automatic mode. And most of these bioreactors are controlled using standard controllers like PID kind of controllers using PLC. So that means PLC with the PID controller is used for controlling the ambient conditions, and under this ambient conditions, the nutrient is going to be manipulated to get the desired yield. And most of the objective of this bioprocess is to maximize the yield of this bioproduct, or we wanted to maximize the biomass, we wanted to maximize it. And for that, like, mostly like it is controlled using only PID kind of controller with the fixed PID controller setting. Again, in bioprocess, I wanted to mention you that there are 3 different type of bioprocesses. You will come across batch kind, fed batch kind, and continuous kind of reactions. So batch kind of a bioreactor, everything will be dumped and the final output will be taken only after the complete fermentation process is completed. In fed batch kind, like you will be feeding the nutrient and then you will be taking the final product at the end. In continuous type, there will be a continuous input, continuously reaction will be happening, and you will be taking the output from the bioreactor. And what we focused was the fed batch kind. This lutein comes under the fed batch type of a bioprocess. Okay. Now coming to the set of governing equations. The authors of the papers who reported these dynamic equations, they conducted a lot of experiments using the lutein production process under open loop conditions. That means under varieties of experimental conditions, the data are recorded. Now, when we talk about the input to this lutein production process, there are 2 inputs. There are 2 inputs for this. Okay, let me talk about the lutein production process. Okay, now where this lutein concentration, so Cl, all the C's refers to concentration. Now here we come across 3 concentrations. One is a lutein concentration, biomass concentration, and there is a nitrate concentration. And these are basically the output variables, are the state variables. And all the other terms are the kinetic parameters associated with this lutein production process. And here we come across 2 input variables. That means Fin, which is the feed rate of the nitrate that can be manipulated, and U0, which is the specific growth rate of the bioprocess, which again is a function of light intensity. So that means this lutein process is a photosynthesis type of a bioreactor. So light intensity is going to have an impact on the growth of the lutein. So there are 2 inputs which are going to be manipulated. One is light intensity, the other one is a nitrate. So nitrate sufficient condition is required for the growth of this lutein. So nitrate flow rate can be manipulated. So what the author has done is, under different experimental conditions, by varying this nitrate feed rate and by varying the light intensity, under open loop conditions, they have recorded how Cx is changing, how Cl is changing, how Cn is changing. And then using the parameter estimation method, all the remaining kinetic parameters are estimated. And with that kinetic parameter, I can just show you the table. And this is basically the 3 different operating conditions under which the experiments are conducted by the author. And a variation, the experimental condition, you see like the feed rate is changed from 100 microliter per hour to 500 and then 1000 microliter per hour. And I wanted to mention you that here the complete fermentation time is 168 hours, which is equivalent to almost like 7 days. So we wanted to go for some kind of an advanced automatic control mechanism because it is a very long process, and manually handling it, ensuring on the quality of the reaction is going to be very challenging. So we wanted to go for some sophisticated advanced methods so that the process will give us a good yield or maximum yield. And the sampling time is normally in the order of 1 hour. And as I said, some of the parameters which are not directly measurable, they are analyzed offline using offline analysis method. And then every 1 hour, you will be knowing those values also. And these are the nitrate concentration and the light intensity. Light intensity is also varied, but here I have not listed in the table. So what we see here is that, as I said, experimental condition 1, data are recorded, parameter estimation algorithm is run, parameters are obtained. Okay, and in the bottom table you will see the estimated parameters. So we see some of the parameters like yield coefficient, okay, which is in the order of 560.4 milligram per gram. And again, like you see the another parameter like Kn, that is again in the order of 37.13. And an experimental condition 2, where again the data is recorded under open loop conditions and parameters are estimated. We see that the corresponding yield coefficient, there is a drastic variation, and UD also has drastically changed, and this Kn also has changed. So what we see here is that from experimental condition to experimental condition, there is a change in feed rate. So as the feed rate changes, the parameters are drastically changing. And here we have option, because we are doing experiments and then we are trying to estimate the kinetic parameters. Only under finite experimental conditions we will be able to get the kinetic parameters. But the thing is, like between 100 to 500 also the kinetic parameters are continuously changing. But how they are changing, how the trend is, we don't have idea. So that means there are a lot of uncertainty associated with the parameters which keep changing continuously online. And there is a high amount of non-linearity that is present. To handle these issues, we have proposed the deep learning based algorithm. Now, coming to this, so these are the set of equations. Okay, as I said, again, this U0, one of the kinetic parameter which we are manipulating, it is a function of I0 or nothing but light intensity. So there can be maximum 2 input and we have got 3 outputs of the system. Mostly we are interested in maximizing the CL concentration. So this is the problem. Okay, so let's try to formulate this problem. So instead of representing in terms of Cx, Cl and Cn, let me try to represent in the form of a state variable representation in terms of x1 and x2 and x3. So when you try to represent it, and this is basically the system dynamics represented in standard form. And in that, like we can try to represent in standard state variable form, like x dot is equal to f of x plus g of x into u, or in this case, I have represented as b into u. So x dot is equal to f of x plus g of x into u, or here because b is a constant, here I have represented as b, because this b matrix has got only 0, 0, cn in, which is a constant. So I'm representing as b, but it can be g of x also. It can be in general g of x. So this x dot is equal to f of x and g of x. And when you compare it with this equation 3, you find the function f of x. The function f of x is a highly nonlinear function. So why do we call it as a nonlinear function? Because all these parameters are varying with respect to operating condition. And you also come across a product of x1, x3, okay, and you have got these terms present here. Okay, so because of which it is highly nonlinear. Okay, so now this like x dot is equal to f of x plus g of x into u form is called as an affine form. So that means the Lewton prediction process can be treated in an affine form of system, and let us try to provide some kind of solution for that. And mostly this Lewton prediction process is operated in the semi-automatic mode, where they try to vary only this Fin. And light intensity, they don't vary drastically, even though it has got an option for varying light intensity. They don't vary the light intensity, they try to manipulate only Fin to get the desired yield of CL. But that doesn't ensure the desired maximum yield of CL. So we carried out some kind of an analysis, which we called as a controllability analysis, but I have not projected the controllability analysis, which is highly mathematical. But if some of you are interested, I can discuss about that later. And this controllability analysis, when we carried out, we have proved that by using only Fin as one of the input, it is very difficult to control the Lewton prediction process. So that means minimum you need 2 inputs in order to control the Lewton prediction. So using Lie derivative analysis, we did the analysis and we proved that only by taking Fin, the complete system is not controllable. So you need one more input. So what we did is we have already considered 2 inputs. That means we are considering both light intensity as well as the nitrate feed rate. And then we did the controllability analysis and we have proved that the system is controllable now. Okay. So now because we wanted to vary these two, I have slightly modified my equation now because there are 2 inputs now. Earlier we had B as constant, we had only 1 input U, but now we have got 2 inputs. So the modified form is like this. And in this modified form, again we see that this f of x is non-linear, g of x is also has becoming non-linear now, and we have got U. So this is basically the affine form of system. Now here I have considered only two important state variables. One is the lutein, which we wanted to maximize it. Another one is a nitrate concentration, because we need nitrate sufficient condition to get the desired lutein. What you have to see here is that one of the output, which is nothing but the biomass concentration, I am not controlling the biomass concentration. That means to get a maximum yield of lutein, I need to maintain this nitrate sufficient condition, and indirectly you will get the required amount of biomass you will be getting it. Now the problem formulation is like this. Now we come across an affine kind of system for which we wanted to go for some kind of a control scheme. The control scheme what we have attempted is a very popular control scheme, which is called as a feedback linearization based control scheme. And here we have used a neural network for feedback linearization based control scheme. And in this particular control scheme, the analysis what we have done is there are two matrices now. We have got an F matrix and there is a G matrix. Now to start with, what is the assumption we have made is like F matrix alone is unknown and G is partially known to us, and later we have extended the work even for the case when G is completely unknown also we have done it. So that means without knowing, so F and G are basically nothing but the dynamic parameters of the system. They are the kinetic parameters or the dynamics of the system. So whatever control scheme which we are proposing it can be used for any system whose mathematical model is not available. So that means online from the data itself, we are going to get this f of x and g of x, we are going to get online. So that is the beauty of the proposed control scheme. So we do not need the dynamics of the system. So that is an important inference. Now here, this x dot is equal to f of x plus g of x into u. When you discretize it, you can represent as x dot can be represented as x of k plus 1 minus x of k divided by t. That will be equal to f of x of k plus b times u of k or g of x times u of k. So when you cross multiply, you will get it like this. And here, we also wanted to introduce a term called as a tracking error, which will be difference between xk and x of k minus xd of k, where xd of k is a desired trajectory. Now what we wanted to get it like, at this equation we are going to modify. So the requirement is, using this feedback linearization control scheme, at x of k plus 1, my requirement is that I wanted to get xd of k plus 1. So I wanted to derive an expression for control law u of k, which will give me xd of k plus 1 at x of k plus 1. So let me substitute x of k plus 1 by xd of k plus 1, the same equation. I'm going to substitute it like that. And write e of k is represented as a difference here. Let me represent e of k plus 1 as x of k plus 1 minus xd of k plus 1. I have got expression for x of k plus 1. I have got expression for xd of k plus 1. Try to find out the difference between that. It becomes e of k plus 1. So you will get e of k plus 1, something like this. Okay. Now here the important fact what you have to see is that we wanted to derive an expression for u of k from what is available to us. So let us try to modify this equation, and this t times b of u of k will become, when you modify, take all the remaining terms to the other side. Wherever you have positive sign here, everything will become negative when you take it to the other side. And this positive will be negative will become positive when it goes to the other side. And you are introducing a small gain term here, which we call it as kv times e of k. Okay. Now let us try to understand this expression. Okay. And from this you can get an expression for u of k. Okay. So here basically the idea is that now here when I get t b u of k like this, and when I try to substitute that here, the thing is like f of x of k, and here you have got minus of f hat of x of k. F hat of x of k is the estimated value of estimated function. Okay, and so what will happen? This and this will get cancelled. And similarly, you have got x of k here. Here you have got minus x of k. This and this will get cancelled. Okay, so that means that you will get at x of k plus 1, you will get xd of k plus 1 plus small kv times your e of k. And so that means that by going for this kind of a control law, where by using the approximation of the function, so this function f of x of k, I wanted to approximate using f hat of x of k. So by using f hat of x of k, if I know that this function is going to get cancelled. So this is basically called as feedback linearization. That means that the nonlinear function f of x of k function, I am just cancelling that function by getting the approximation of the function in the feedback, and I'm trying to just cancel that out. So that means nonlinearity is getting cancelled, and you get at x of k plus 1, you get xd of k plus 1. This x of k and minus x of k also will get cancelled. And so what we see here is that in this control law, we can just say like there are two terms. One is like the computed term. The other one is kv times e of k. So as I said, e of k is the difference between x of k and xd of k. So we wanted to minimize this error. So this error is a feedback error. And this kv is equivalent to the feedback controller. Like a PID controller, you can decide the gain value. So there is the component in control law, which is a function of feedback error, and there is a component which is used for linearizing the nonlinear, for cancelling the nonlinear function, for cancelling this x of k, and to get x of k plus 1 equal to xd of k plus 1, we have got these terms. So that means computed term and there is a feedback term. So that means that this computed term will get nullified, and then this feedback term, whenever there is a small error associated with any disturbances, normal feedback controller. So that is, it is a combination of PID plus computed value. So this computed value will become 0 once the nonlinearity is cancelled, and this PID will take care of a small uncertainty or mismatch which is present in the output because of disturbances or other small uncertainties which has not been accounted for. So this is a control law which we wanted to implement it. I hope I have made this concept clear. And the challenge here is that, so we wanted B inverse, okay? And many of the cases, this B matrix or G of X matrix may not be directly inversible, okay? So only if an inverse exists directly, I can find out the B inverse, or G inverse, I can directly find out. When B is not directly invertible, you can also think of using pseudo inverse for B. In our case, okay, in our case, this G of X is a square matrix, so we don't have any problem. But in case, like as I said, this is with the 2 input. But when you come across a case of a single input, the B matrix becomes a 3/1 matrix. That means it's a non-square matrix. Directly, it is not invertible. So with a single input, when you try to control this bio process, you need to again go for pseudo inverse for B. But with the 2 input, this G of X has become a square matrix. So there is no need for us to take the pseudo inverse here. So here, what is that? This f hat of x of k is going to be the approximated function. Now, this we wanted to approximate using neural networks. So in this feedback linearization, the neural network is used as a function approximator. Trying to approximate the unknown dynamics, process dynamics is going to be approximated using neural network. So when the dynamics exactly matches, complete cancellation of the nonlinear term will happen, and you will be able to get a very good output. So that is basically the idea behind this feedback linearization based neural network controller. So this is represented in a diagrammatic form for this particular application. So this is the bioprocess what we have considered. And there are 2 inputs, U0, which is a function of I0 light intensity, Fin, which is a nitrate feed rate. And there are 3 outputs, biomass, nitrate, and lutein concentration. And this is given as a feedback, okay? Now, in this case, we have made the assumption that these concentrations are available to us either by using some kind of a soft sensor or doing some kind of an offline analysis. We try to get these values because whatever scheme we are proposing is a feedback control scheme. So you need the measurement of the output variables, and these output variables are given. So these are given as an input to the neural network. So from these concentrations, this neural network is going to get the f hat value. And this formula, the expression, whatever expression we have written for this U, I have represented in the form of a block diagram here. So that means I have this f hat minus of f hat, and then this x of k, and this xd at k plus 1 is also added here. And then that is given as an input added with kv times e, that becomes your U. And here you will have that inverse matrix also, which has not been explicitly shown here. Okay. And now coming to this, okay, because as I said, like here, online, the neural network is going to learn this function. Online, it is going to learn. So that means every sampling instant, the concentration values are given as an input. Okay. So till your f hat matches this f, because this feedback has to cancel this. this f hat of x of k has to cancel this f of x of k. So till this matches this nonlinear function, you will have a difference present. And once when this matches this, when this matches this, that means the tracking error. So that means here we have the desired trajectory, and the desired trajectory is compared with what is the actual output. And in this case, we say that using this control scheme, we are able to get an optimum yield of lutein, mainly because for most of the bioproducts, what is the maximum yield that is possible is available offline, or by conducting some kind of open loop experiments, you can get the optimum profile. So idea here is that the reference profile or optimum profile is available. How the lutein concentration has to change to get maximum yield, that is available as an input to this control scheme. And whatever control scheme we are proposing will cancel out only the f of x, non-linearity in f of x, and whatever uncertainty we have, that is going to be cancelled out. So that is the idea here, and it is learning the function online. That is the biggest challenge here. So the reference trajectory. So the reference will give you your, what is the way in which CL has to change, what is the way in which CN has to change is given as a reference trajectory here. So we compare that XD at k plus 1 with X of k plus 1, that is the error, multiplied by PID controller. So we see there is a PID controller, and there is one more additional control signal, which is a feedback signal. This is a computed signal. This computed signal is a function of the approximated function. So it's cancelling the function. So this is with respect to the scheme. Now what we have done is like, we have tried with a single layer, and we have also tried with many layers also, up to 7 layers. Okay, we have increased the number of layers, and the weights of these layers need to be updated. And as I repeatedly I was saying, we have gone for online weight updation scheme. That means every sampling instant the weights are going to be updated. And here, as I said, in the shallow network where people are using the backpropagation kind of algorithm, the gradient need to be backpropagated and the weights need to be updated. So that means here weights may get updated, here weights may get updated. But when you propagate it with many number of layers, these weights may not get updated because the gradient may become 0 or it may get vanished. Whereas here what we want to do is, we wanted to find out the tracking error. So what is a tracking error? Tracking error is a difference between the desired profile and actual profile. So once if I know this tracking error, you see here this dotted line directly comes as the enter into the neural network. So once you know the tracking error, based on the tracking error, if I can update this weight, this weight, this weight, this weight simultaneously. So that means I'm not propagating it layer by layer. Simultaneously, all my weights are going to be updated as a function of this tracking error. So that is the beauty of this online learning algorithm. So the weight updation, that means we wanted to use one set of weights for all the hidden layers, and we wanted to use one set of weight update law for the final output layer. And these weight update laws have been proposed 20 years before by Professor Jagannathan, under whom I have worked for this Fulbright Fellowship. The team has proposed this online weight update laws. So I'm using the same laws what has been proposed by Professor Jagannathan. And there are, as I said, there are 2 set of weight update laws. The weight update law connecting input with the hidden layer has got one expression like this. And there is a big proof and big derivation. I'm just skipping that for the want of time. And again, there is one more weight update law connecting the final output layer. And here we see that these weight update laws. So to update the weights, what is required here? To update the weights, I need the output of the neural network. I need the tracking error. So tracking error. Here also you see I need only the tracking error and I need only the outputs of the final output. Here you see the final output. So I need final output. I need final tracking error. Based on that, I'll be able to simultaneously update all the weights. So the weights are going to be updated simultaneously. So every sampling instant, the weight update is happening. Every sampling instant, the weight update is happening. And again, we tried this with a single layer, and then with the many layers also we have tried. So I want to just discuss with you the results what we got with the 7 layer, and there is also a comparison. Now here with the 7 layers, so that means here in this block diagram, there are 7 layers connecting the input with the final output. So there will be 7 layer weights. So 7 layer weights need to be updated. And again, like if you see the results here, now what I have projected here are the 3 concentrations. One is biomass concentration, lutein concentration, nitrate concentration, and there are two input variables like U0 and Fin are the two input variable, and two error terms I have projected. How the tracking error is changed, how the approximation error is changed. Now here, as I said, and to get on the desired trajectory is available with us. So this desired reference trajectory includes a lutein profile as well as a nitrate profile. So two profiles are available with us. Biomass, we don't want to control the biomass. We wanted to get a maximum yield with the nitrate sufficient condition. And we also ensured this fact, okay, out of the three output variable, like if two output variables when they are controlled, okay, leaving the third output variable open, is it realistic or is it like practically applicable? We checked with IIT Gandhinagar Professor Dr. Sendil Kumar. So he has given his concurrence saying that two of the output variables you can control them, leaving one of the output variable, okay, which in turn is going to be decided as a function of these two variable only ultimately. Okay, so what we have got two profiles here. One is the lutein profile. Whatever you see in red color here are the desired profile. And here again, you see a red color, which is a desired profile. So desired lutein profile and desired nitrate profile. And whatever you see in blue is what is actually we get under closed loop condition using the feedback linearization based NN controller. And this is the biomass concentration, which varies as a function of the CL and CN. And the two inputs, how they are changing. The Fin, how it is changing. So Fin variation, which is a nitrate feed rate, actual ranges from 0 to 1000 microliter per hour. For our control scheme, it varies from 0 to 120 microliter per hour. So we have seen that when compared with the open loop way of maximizing the lutein concentration, using the closed loop method of controlling, we are able to minimize the control effort also. And again, one more important factor is, here you will see some perturbation here initially. For 30 time instances, you see some small perturbation. This is basically called as PE conditions, which is persistent excitation condition. So whenever you want to capture the dynamics of any dynamically varying system, you need to apply a small perturbing excitation to capture the dynamics. So we applied with a zero min, small variance, perturbation in I0 and Fin to capture the variation of the dynamics. And this, whatever you see in blue color is the corresponding U0 variation. It is actually very slowly changing in terms of 0.0. So you don't see any variation here. I have just magnified a small portion to show you that that is also changing like this. So that means there is a small change in the light intensity concentration. And then like the two error component, they are very important. One is tracking error. Tracking error is a difference between CL and CLD. And CN and CND, both the errors included here. And the approximation error is a difference between f of x and f hat of x. Only for the portion for which we have applied small perturbation, you see tracking error present. But when the perturbation is removed, that means within the small 30 time instances, the system has online, it has captured the dynamics. So we don't see any, it is exactly matching under the closed loop condition. So we don't see much error here. And similarly, this approximation error, you see here, the approximation error is non-zero only for the PE condition, only for small time period. After that, it becomes too small. So this is with 7 layers. And here is a comparison. So why we went for deep kind of an architecture. Now here is a very interesting result. Now you see here a result with 1 layer alone, with the 3 layer alone, with the 7 layer alone. And when we see the result here, the red one, as we have seen in the earlier graph, the red one is the desired profile. So I have got a desired lutein profile, red one like this, desired nitrate profile is like this. So what is the important inference what we have made is, like irrespective of whether we have gone for 1 layer, 3 layer, 7 layer, it was easy for us to maintain the nitrate profile, not without much variation. There is only very small variation, okay? Whereas minutely, if you see the lutein concentration, the blue one is with 1 layer. So the red is what is we are looking for, the yield what we are looking for. The blue one is what we get with only 1 layer. So we see that we are not able to get the desired yield. Under closed loop condition, we are not able to maintain this trajectory with only using 1 layer of neural network. Then with the 3 layer also we see most of the time we are able to maintain it. Only for a small time there is a small mismatch. Then coming to the 7 layer, which is the black color, you don't see here, it is sitting over a red one. So we see that we are able to get exactly the desired yield by using the 7 layers. By using deep kind of a neural network with online learning capability and the feedback linearization based control scheme, with the 7 layers, we are able to get the desired yield under closed loop condition. Only thing is the measurement should be available for carrying out the closed loop studies. And you will also see how the control signals are changing. The nitrate feeded, how it is changing under different layer conditions, with 1 layer, with 3 layers, 7 layer. So we see that 7 layer is optimum. 7 layer is optimum. The consumption is minimum. It is able to exactly track. And similarly, the U0 variation, again, with the 7 layer, it is minimum. Again, it is the control effort is also minimum. And again, the tracking error. So with respect to tracking error, here again, wherever you have fluctuation, that refers to PE conditions. So to capture the dynamics, we need the PE conditions. We wanted to ensure on PE, persistent excitation conditions. So persistent excitation is given both in U0 as well as in FIN. So we see that the tracking error is non-zero only when the inputs are getting perturbed. So when the inputs are getting perturbed, there is a mismatch between X and XD. And once the input matches, like you see 1 layer, the tracking error is slightly more. With the 3 layer, it has reduced. With the 7 layer, further it has reduced. So between 3 and 7, you see only a small improvement here in terms of tracking error. But in terms of lutein concentration, with the 7 layer, we are able to exactly get the desired lutein concentration. So this is the comparison of 3 different cases. So finally, I wanted to conclude it. Like most of the commercial controllers, like the PLC kind of a control scheme, they do not have option for learning on their own, or they cannot adapt themselves. Whereas here, what we are proposing is a self-learning, the controller which has got self-learning capability. So online, so whatever I have discussed for bioprocess can be extended to any process or any system. Online, they will be able to learn them. And without unknown dynamics, and any variability issue can be effectively handled with the minimum consumption of the inputs. And we are planning to extend this work for prognostics or prediction of fault. And vision-based monitoring control is also another popular area in which bioreactors, you will find a lot of need in using that. And currently, why it is so important, like currently only 10% of 100 million metric ton of fine are bioproducts are bio-based. So this US Department of Energy wanted to make it 50% in 2030. So that means there are a lot of potential. Market demand is there, like 400 billion market demand is there for producing bioproducts which are bio-based. So this is basically the final conclusion and future work. And I would like to thank Professor Jagannathan Sarangapani, who is an emeritus professor and icon in the field of online neural network, who is with Missouri University of Science and Technology. And I also want to thank Anna University for sponsoring me for this Fulbright Fellowship. And I also would like to thank the research scholars who were there as a part of the research group, Mr. Roholla, Arnold, and Christian, who were supporting me, because doing all this mathematical formulation, it was very challenging for me at this as a senior researcher, but they were supporting me. So I would like to thank all of you for listening to my presentation. So with that, I am just winding up my presentation. Now I'm open for discussion. Maybe few of the questions which I come across in the chat, maybe I can try to answer. So whatever work I have presented, I have communicated to one conference, WCCA. It got accepted and it is scheduled to happen in July as a virtual conference. And we also have communicated to Journal of Process Control, which has undergone the first review, and we are asked to submit the revised version. And whatever I have projected is a small part of the work I did in 8 months' time. I have also worked on optimal adaptive control. So I'm open for any discussion. And I wanted to share whatever experience I got in this 8 months. I am ready to share with any one of you in any of the future occasions also. We have done good work in optimal adaptive control. So this is only a small component of work of what I have projected. There are some questions like whatever method, is it applicable to all processes? Yes, it is applicable to all processes. So somebody has asked some questions like, Now, somebody has asked me questions like how to select a function for modeling an experiment. And actually I think the question should be in the reverse way. How to develop model based on experimental data. So if you have got a physical setup available, the first thing you have to do is like you have to conduct experiments, record the data. With the recorded data, you will be able to develop some kind of an approximate model for the experimental setup. Then you can start working from that experimental model. And then you can implement it in real time and then you can check it.
Yeah. Good morning, all. On behalf of Ishwari Engineering College, Department of Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering, I really thank our Honorable Speaker, Dr. Papa Ma'am, for the webinar, Deep Learning for Modeling and Controlling of Bioprocess. It's really my privilege to thank you on this occasion, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and spending your valuable time with us. It's really an excellent session on deep learning with great patience and many lot of technical inputs, which was really knowledgeable, ma'am. Thank you once again, ma'am. I extend my gratitude to our management, principal sir, for their constant support. I extend my special thanks to our HOD, Dr. S. Nagarajan sir, for his moral support in all our endeavors. I also express my hearty thanks to our coordinators as well as our whole faculty team for their great support and making this webinar success. It's really my pleasure to thank all our participants for their kind patience. Without you all, it would have not been successful. Thank you all once again. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing all your proposed things and knowledge with us. Thank you once again, ma'am.
So thank you organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my research experience as a part of this Fulbright Fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.